Hey everybody. Alright, let me see, get chat up here. Controls. Cool. So if I hit that, yep. Cool beans. See, view docs. Chat. There we go. Chat is up. Well, let's see something here. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody to our first of what I hope to be a weekly hobby stream. Tonight, I'm working on. Don't let the view here fool you. Tonight, I'm working on Battletech. I am very new to Battletech, but I'm really enjoying myself. And let's see here. I've got a good friend coming over tomorrow, and we're gonna play a little bit. Last time we played, we sort of played. We didn't really truly play according to the rules, and we're still gonna play probably at 50% rules capacity. That's just how I like to play games usually that I'm new to. It's hard for me to learn all the rules right in the beginning and then play it, because if I wait for that, I'll never play. I like to take things a little at a time just to get myself rolling. So the way I've decided to start is I'm going to buy the models that I want to have in a lance. I don't even know if I'm making the lance the right way. I'm just kind of going for it. So I've got 5 mechs here. I'm starting a clan era mercenary company. In this company, I've got 2 Timberwolves. This is what I would consider to be like the stock variant of the Timberwolf. I don't know if it is or not. It's the one with the 2 LRM-20s, 2 machine guns, I think 2 ER PPCs and 2 ER medium lasers. I think that's the loadout. It's a really quick mech. It's my favorite mech. It was on the cover of Mech Warrior 2 Mercenaries, which was my first Mech Warrior game, and it was sort of the mech, the PR mech of that game. So I've got 2 of those. They're really decent at taking down enemies at range. They're very fast, decently armored, just a good mech. And then the Archer, because I think he looks cool. He's a missile boat, got lots of missiles. And then I think this guy is the Adder, or maybe it's the Kifox. Puma? It's one of those light mechs from the clans. And then, of course, the Rifleman. Another classic mech in my estimation, an Intersphere mech. I like it a lot. I like how it looks. I like its battlefield role, sort of a sniper. You'll notice that the theme in this, I think what the clans call it, is like a battle star. You'll notice that they're all, with the exception of this light mech, all of them are ranged units. That might not work in my favor. We'll see. You know what? I think I'm going to turn on some music. Now, I'm not a monetized channel. I'm nowhere near popular enough to do that yet. If ever. We'll see. But I still want to try to avoid any copyright issues. Not sure on the legality of it. Just more or less want to not do that kind of thing. I don't want to get in the habit of it. So, what am I thinking of? Copyright free. Let's try this. I don't recognize any of the names, so I'm thinking that these would be okay. There's no description. I'm a little wary of that, though. Let's see. Albums, playlists, copyright free. Here, let's look at all the playlists. Copyright free EDM, copyright free lo-fi. There we go. I feel like this will be fine. And if it's not fine, I don't know if there's going to be any consequences, and I don't think I care if there are. This must be just like a low-key thing. So, alright. Now, I've never painted Battletech before, but I have painted a lot of models. If you're familiar with any of my content, you'll know that I do a lot of Warhammer content. Warhammer has sort of been my main, or one of my main hobbies for the past 5 or 6 years. 6 years at this point. And as a result of that, all of the skills that you're going to see me use have worked somewhat well for that. Will it work well today? We'll see. This is more of just a casual thing. The one thing that I do like about Battletech is that you don't have to worry as much about screwing up your models. They're so cheap. And I do have a 3D printer. Picked one up a few months ago. It's a Mars. It's a Mars 3? Mars 2? I can't remember. I haven't even printed anything on it yet, but it's really cheap to get STLs for Battletech models, so I want to make sure the lighting is good. Kind of got a funky setup right now. It's my first time really trying to use this setup. What if I do this? Shadows are playing. There we go. That looks good. Yeah, so like I said, this is the first time I've really strayed from that world. If I mess it up, it's cheap. Hey Q-tips, it's going good. About to get rolling here on this model. Let's see, so let's start. Where's my brushes? Actually, it's been a while since I've painted. With lockdowns and everything, and how things are with the pandemic, I haven't seen much of a reason or an opportunity to go anywhere and play the game. Watch me on the big screen. Nice. Alright, so for the color scheme, I'm going with, I think it's called the Beta Wolf Galaxy, or something like that. Clan Wolf, one of their color schemes. I'm going with it not because I know anything about the lore of it, but going with it because I think it looks cool. I think, if I recall, Duncan, who he has a miniature painting channel, Duncan Rhodes Miniature Painting, I think that's what it's called. He painted a Timberwolf in the exact scheme. So, I like how that turned out, so I'm going to try to copy it, see how well I do. It's possible it's going to look terrible. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Let me see if I can move this camera so you get a better... There we go. There. I'm using a wet palette, for those of you who aren't familiar. It keeps your paints from drying out. You end up saving a lot of paint. Which is good because I have, until this point, used almost exclusively Citadel paints. And they are not cheap. Alright. I think my technique is pretty terrible. I'm not a professional. I am a hobbyist, so I don't necessarily focus on things like that. More or less interested in getting paint on plastic, getting it on the table. So if you see what I'm doing and you're like, that's horrible, you can give me some tips, and I might listen to them. I also might not care enough to change my technique, which technique is a strong word for how I approach painting. Alright. Now, I should also say this. I don't know if there was a name for this technique. In the Warhammer world, we call this the heavy metal technique. It has been called that anyway. I don't know if that's an official name. But what that means, what that is essentially a 3-step process to painting a model. And the first step is base coats. So these are your main colors, in your color scheme, and you put them on there first. Then you wash with like a watered down ink or a paint, and then after that you highlight on the edges. And that's the technique they use in Warhammer, and that's what I'm going to use here because I don't know anything else, and I think it works perfectly fine. I've noticed a lot of guys, a lot of the mechs that I've seen painted online, they use like a cell shading. And that may be sort of the standard for that world, but I'm new to that world. Family Q-tips. I painted a halfling bard for D&D on the weekend, and it was fun. How often do you use miniatures for games? I pretty much exclusively play games with miniatures. Now, I am really into D&D. I only got into it a few years ago. I have run, I think 4, maybe 5 campaigns. That could be an overly aggressive number, but in those settings, it can be really tough to use models, but I've always tried to use them if I can because it's my preferred medium. I really enjoy models, not even just playing with them, but looking at them. Always have. I remember when I was, how old was I? Probably 7 or 8. My dad one year bought me a pretty hefty modeling kit. Had military models like helicopters and an H-64 Apache, and had like a Huey and a Super Cobra. I put all those together and painted them. I really like just looking at the models. My grandpa, he was also really into railroads, model railroads. So I like to look at his layout and things like that. So looking at models has always interested me. But I would say that when it comes to playing games, I have a strong preference for games with models. I think it's because it helps my immersion. And especially when you're dealing with combat situations in Dungeons and Dragons, or any tabletop RPG for that matter, I've found that not having miniatures and a map makes it very difficult for a lot of people to engage in the combat, because they just can't keep their mind straight on who's where and what's happening and what spot, where they need to go. So for that reason, if I'm not using miniatures, I will use something else that I can get everybody to use for free, like Roll20. We use that all the time. I create a map on Roll20 and assign a token on Roll20. I really wanted to get to the point, I don't have the time that I once did, but I really wanted to get to the point where we'd have full 3D models on the tabletop of whichever location we're at. That's one of the reasons why I bought this 3D printer, because I wanted to print out dungeon tiles, and I think I still will, but just some things went on in my personal life that made it difficult to set up games with friends Well, I mean, the pandemic, right? That affected everybody. But even outside of that, we just had our fourth child. And, I love having kids. It's my favorite part of my life. But I would say this, that you need to be prepared for it to change your life. Change your priorities, how much free time you have. With each child, it gets a little bit less. The first child, it didn't really disrupt my life at all. I feel like my wife and I were still able to do pretty much everything we wanted to do when we did it. Second child, a little less so, but still, more or less, we were able to do everything we wanted to do. But by the time we got to that third child, it was not going to happen. And the fourth, it's pretty much put a total stoppage on all of that stuff for now. Once the baby gets a little older, I think it'll be okay, but life is just very overwhelming for everyone in the family right now, so once I free up my time a little bit, I'll get the gang back together and I'll run a campaign again, and hopefully for that one I'll be able to print everybody a model. Q-tips. My friend got a huge dragon figure for D&D and he did an epic campaign about it. He got me into D&D and I got dice for Christmas. I also rolled a 1 4 times and it sucked. My character died, by the way. Yeah, that's one of the things that is the most fun about D&D and also can be the most frustrating. Is that nothing is set in stone. Like, most times, like in a movie or in a book, you got plot armor for a character. And so you get to decide what happens to that character. In Dungeons and Dragons, the only person who can stop your character from dying, truly, is the DM. And as a DM, I've been a DM 4 or 5 times, like I said, for some pretty lengthy campaigns. The decision you have to make, really in a split second sometimes, is how to carry out certain consequences. And that's a balance you got to weigh, right? Because on the one hand, if there is no sense of danger, you've also lost a sense of suspense and excitement and thrill to the campaign. But if it's too dangerous, then people can never get connected to their character or really feel like they're part of something different. So, as frustrating as it can be, I always like to hear that that DMs are killing off characters, because I think it's going to make for a better campaign overall. Plus, it helps people learn their rules better. So. Oh, it looks like we're getting all the bots. Yep, that's always fun. I wonder if bots are used because they're successful, or are they only a tool for phishing? Alright, so now I'm going to work on the archer. Same sort of approach. You can do the legs in this bluish gray color. The color from Citadel, it's a subsidiary of Games Workshop, is Mechanicus Standard Gray. This is my favorite gray that they've produced. I use it pretty much on every model I paint. I'm not sure what it is. It's just such a versatile gray. I use it for stone, I use it for metal. Think about it, there's just a lot of opportunities for this kind of thing, especially in war games, right? Let's see, I gotta pay attention here. I think I'm just gonna do the legs and then those at the hip joint. They have that piece. I think I'm gonna keep that tan. I'll have to see how it looks. Now, as an avid Warhammer hobbyist, I've painted many models. mini models that are much larger than this. And it's just so nice to have an entire army made up of 4 small models compared to, let's see, the last army I was working on for Warhammer was a fantasy army for Age of Sigmar. It was Maggotkin of Nurgle. And, you know, that'll have, I think it has 50 models in it. And some of them are gigantic. I plan on painting one of those on stream at some point. Because if I don't, I'm going to probably jump off a bridge. It's really boring painting for any sustained amount of time by yourself. And I am an introvert, but I don't think I'm that much of an introvert. Okay. Alright, let's get the other leg. One of the nice things at this step is that small accidents, small mistakes don't really mean a whole lot. So you'll see me be a little sloppier here. Part of that is lack of patience. Part of that is lack of practice. Part of that is lack of concern. And I mean, honestly, I use the same size brush for most tasks. Definitely not the best practice. But it's the practice that I'm using because I don't care. I want the end result, and I don't necessarily care if it's... I don't know. I'm just trying to be realistic. It's not like I'm painting a golden demon model, right? I'm not going to win any awards for my paint jobs. To get good enough to win an award for your paint job, that's like a serious time and money investment. I'm not willing to make that investment. So, and besides, you could argue that you just have to, you start out with a certain amount of natural talent anyway that I don't care to have, and I don't know if I have. So if I'm not going to paint the greatest thing ever, then I'm not going to really concern myself with I'm not going to concern myself with doing it perfectly. So just going to do it to get the job done. You were pretty good at painting. Facts, very true words. I'm sloppy at painting. Yeah, I think I'm okay at it. And I was very sloppy when I first started, too. And the more you do it, the more you learn the kind of sloppiness you can accept and the kind of sloppiness you've got to clean up. Like, you'll see I've overpainted a little bit on these hip pads, the hip armor here, and that's acceptable because I'm going to go back over it with another color, a pretty thick, heavy color that's going to cover that up completely. But when I'm painting, say, like the canopy, it's a very small spot on this model, the colors I'll be using there and the stage of the model I'll be at, there's not really that same sort of room for error. But in this very early stage, you can be sloppy like that, which is why I would consider careless with how I apply the paint and the type of brush I'm using. That's the other thing, too. I remember when I got into the hobby, I felt like, oh, I need all these different kinds of brushes because these guys use all these different kinds of brushes on TV. Well, you know what? I use 2 brushes. This cheap dollar store brush, and I have a brush from Army Painter, dry brush. I use those 2 brushes for literally everything. Now, when I do terrain, like, I'm going to pull out a bigger brush, right? Like, I'll use this when I do terrain because there's a lot of ground to cover. But when I'm painting most models, this medium-sized brush, it does the job. Alright, so the first Timberwolf, its legs are drying. The Archer's finished, but its legs are drying. I think I'm going to paint the legs on the Rifleman. next. Clean my brush a little bit. Yeah, so I had a video blow up this month. Blow up for me, okay? So it has like 240, 250 some views. It was my reaction to the Space Marine 2 trailer. That's a pretty exciting thing to see that view number go up, but it's also interesting because the view number went up, but I think I got like 1 subscriber out of that 200. So it's one of those things that YouTube is very interesting to me. It's a lot of fun for me to look at the analytics and just figure out, why do people make the decisions that they make? Like, why are that many people interested in viewing that video? Video that honestly I put pretty much no work into, but something that I've put a lot of work into, like some of my gaming streams, my gaming videos, they'll pull 24 views. I don't know. I wonder if it's metadata or what. I think I just made a mistake there. My friend just called you a Chad. He also paints tons of miniatures for D&D. A Chad. Now, I could be a boomer, but growing up, for me, a Chad was somebody who's kind of like a bro, somebody like a jock. I don't know if he's calling me a jock. That would be interesting. I don't know what that would mean in this context. But if it means Chad, as in the opposite, like I've seen that meme, Chad and the Virgin or whatever. If that means that, like, I'm cool, thanks. If that means I'm a bro, question mark. But he also paints, huh? Dungeons and Dragons miniatures. Now that's a different sort of painting too, because usually you're painting a model that represents a person or a character. So you gotta be really careful with that. He meant it as a bro. It's a huge comment. Well, gracias, Q-Tip's friend. Alright. This paint's going on nice. That's one of the reasons why I use this paint. It is expensive, but it goes on so nice. Add a little bit of water and it goes on super smooth. And then when it dries, it has a nice finish. After I'm done painting this leg. Pleasant player. Hey, Mr. Teacher, what's up? When I'm done painting the leg on this guy, I'll show you one of my finished pieces. It's a smaller piece. It's my most recent accomplishment, and that was a while ago, but I'm pretty proud of it. It's one of those things, you know, the more I paint, the longer I've worked in the hobby, the more I've realized that when it starts out, it looks like garbage. But when it's finished, it turns out better than, most of the time, it turns out better than you ever thought it could. That's just a good life lesson. Like, something I carry with me. It's like, if at first it looks like trash, it's probably not going to remain trash. It will probably become something good. And if you are an aspiring painter, now to be clear, I'm an amateur. This is a life lesson, not a painting lesson. But if you would like to start painting, don't get discouraged by your early results, because you're not going to know what it looks like till it's done. Hanging over to the fat lady sings. And then when it's done, you can beat yourself up. Yeah, 33 subs, I know. that's nice for me. I've only been doing this regularly for a couple months. It's nice. I actually was pretty surprised to get any subs. Not that I really needed any. I'm kind of doing this just for me anyway. It's fun to have an outlet, a way to share what I'm interested in with people. Especially during the pandemic and how isolating things have been. It's just nice to have this. Alright. So that's the third set of legs done. So, let me bring out a finished piece that I have. Let's see. We'll go with this guy. See if I can get the lighting right. And the zoom. There. No. Let's see. Let's do it up here. That's a little better. Yeah. Pretty proud of that piece. This guy too. I think there was Star Wars Mechs. I'd like to get a better shot here on the vertical. I'm having lighting issues. That's something I'll have to work on. There. That's better. Pretty proud of that job too. Alright. So the lighting looks great for me. But I'm seeing on stream the overhead shot's not great. And I wonder if that has something to do with this. I just got some new lights. No, it doesn't look like it. Is it angle? Looks like it's correcting for it on the exposure. There we go. This is a new tool, a little new toy I got. What D&D race or class are you? So, I am boring when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. I prefer to play pretty much exclusively humans, dwarves, and elves. It's because when I play D&D as a player, not as a DM, I find it easiest to roleplay when I am something I relate to. It's a lot easier for me to relate to them. My favorite race is dwarf. As for class, I don't care for 5th edition classes very much. I think they're very two-dimensional. They bore me. And the ones that are meant to be exciting are just, they feel very gimmicky. But I tend to play the fighter the most. I don't care for the spellcasting system in D&D. And the stealth system isn't that great. So I end up just playing usually a dwarf or a human fighter, sometimes an elf. I find that the fighter gives you a lot of versatility too. You can be a bow user or swords, axes. You can spec in however you'd like. So I'm partial to that. Alright, so that first coat has dried on the legs. It's going to need a second coat. But I think I'll come back to that. Now, let's see, do I have... yes. So, in one of the tutorials I watched, they use this paint, Carrick Stone, for the top. It's very close to the undercoat. I did that on purpose, trying to save myself some time. Coverage wasn't great from the spray can, though. So I think I'm going to try to do Carrick Stone on the top. And then once that's done, I think I'm just going to wash it with either this, Agrax Earthshade, or do I still have some? I do. Nuln Oil. And then dry brush the gray with Dawnstone. And then dry brush the top with, I don't know if I'll dry brush the top. I might do a fine edge highlight of like a flayed one flesh. That's kind of what I'm thinking. What to start with? I think I'm gonna, because this isn't super dry yet, I'm gonna move into, do I want to do Carrick? Yeah, I'll do Carrick Stone. Exactly, Q-tips. Yeah, dry brush over the legs. That's exactly why you do it. You use a dry brush on the dry brush to bring out highlights very quickly, and then I use the shade, the ink wash, to bring out sort of the lower feature. So really, after you base coat and you put down your basic colors in your color scheme, that's sort of the mid-range for lighting, and then your shade goes to the lower end of the light scale, and then your dry brush goes to that higher end. That's the way I think of it anyway. It's like a sandwich. I'm going to try this Carrick Stone. We'll see how this works. Now it's a layer paint and not a base paint, so it's a little thinner. So I'm not going to want to use as much water as I use with the Mechanicus Standard Gray, my favorite gray. Oh, also, this is real nifty. It's a painting handle. Probably overpriced, but I like it because you can pop your model in the handle, and it makes it a lot easier to turn, makes it a lot easier to get things done. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not going to paint the gun barrels this color. I'm not going to paint the canopy. Am I going to paint this, though? Yeah, let me look for a couple pictures before I commit. That's the one thing, too. Let's see. Duncan miniature painting. Yep, here he is, and he did one. How long ago was it? His most recent Battletech one was Draconis Combine. Here it is. Clan Wolf Beta Galaxy Battle Mech. I'm going to just take a quick look. How many miniatures do you have to paint for today? Well, I'm not going to finish these. I want to start my Mech Lance, because tomorrow I'm going to play a game of Battletech with a friend, and my initial plan was to have them all painted. That is not going to happen. So I'm going to try to get through the shade step on these 3 mechs. A friend of mine, he taught me that it's not a big deal when you're painting if you choose just a few models to do at a time, especially when you're doing something like large units for Warhammer. Like I was just showing this completed model that I finished. Okay, that's one. I really like the blood detail on the weapons. That's one model out of, I have 20 of those in an army, in addition to a bunch of other smaller guys and bigger guys. It's a lot of work. Interesting. Okay. Basically, I copy everybody else around me. So right now I'm just referencing Duncan's video, how he painted these mechs. So he base coated it in Zandry Dust. I think. Where did he do that though? Is there chapters? That'd be so nice if he had chapters. No. Alright, so Zandry Dust. That was a difference in his plan versus mine. So now, as he gets closer to the end, I want to know what he's painted silver. Not very much. Oh, he's in some cool freehand too. I'm going to take a shot at that. Nice, I like it. I'm going to get the final product because he always does like a 360 view. Of course, he did a great job as usual. Yeah, I like what he's doing there. So that was, I'm going to follow my instincts, because my instincts on this were to paint a different color. That's something else I've learned too. Often your instincts are the right. Often you can trust your instincts when it comes to painting. If it doesn't work out, then you know your instincts are crappy and you should not trust them. But until that point, trust your instincts. Alright. Now we're switching to Zandry Dust after watching that tutorial again, because that's what he used. It's a thicker paint, so it requires a little bit of water to bring it down to a more reasonable level. Now he had the spray can, so I'm a little jealous. Turns out that my time-saving technique didn't end up saving me any time, because now I just have to base coat it anyway. So that's a lesson for me to take. If I stick with this color scheme, that's a lesson for me to take to my next mechs. Just base coat them in black. Get those under details done. This is a hard angle. This is where a normal person would say, hey, let's use a smaller brush. Not me. I live on the edge. There. This sounds like Zelda. Just found this playlist on Spotify of copyright-free music, but as I'm listening to this, I'm like, sounds like you could actually get busted for copyright with some of this music. Battletech, okay. Why do these people insist? Yeah, I like that color much better than the sort of washed out color that I had on here. Something else that'll help you if you're painting is keeping in mind the details that will be spotted and the details that won't be seen. And don't sweat the details that no one's going to see. I've seen some guys, and I mean, bless their heart. More power to them if this makes them happy, but I've seen these guys paint the insides of vehicles before finishing putting them together. And that's, I mean, if they get really excited about that kind of thing, more power to them. But most of us just glue the vehicle shut and won't paint the inside of it. So, you're like me, and you're not interested in that obscene level of detail. Keep in mind what will be seen and what won't be seen. And if something won't be seen, don't paint it. And if something won't be seen and you make a mistake, leave it. Life's too short to go back and fix all that stuff. Okay. Oh shoot. See, this is why you always go back with a second coat at some point anyway. Because you're going to make some mistakes, like I did. I've got more over painting over here. So the underside here, no one's going to see the underside from the tabletop. And the view that we have right now of this model is much, much closer than what anybody's going to see on the tabletop. No one's going to get this close. You really are trying to make a model look good from 10 feet, 10 feet away. Most things that are created by somebody, if you got close enough to them, you'd see that there was flaws. Alright. This paint's going on nice as well. This is why I use Citadel. Just a nice smooth application. Everybody has their favorite brand though. A lot of people really like Vallejo. I've used Vallejo a little bit. I find it to be too watery. On the bright side of that, though, they have those dropper bottles, which are really nice. I'm going to leave some of this, that sandy color, because I'm going to come back through with like a silver, like a gunmetal color, and paint that with the gunmetal. Things that look like very machine oriented. Something that's like machine steel. Like a grate or like a joint. Those are the sorts of things that I want to hit with that gunmetal. This is definitely a Star Wars song. When you overpaint an area that wasn't supposed to have a different color, you can take a wet brush and wipe away the paint. You can. But that would require me to use another brush. Not gonna happen. I'm a one brush pony. One brush, it's my ride or die right here. I've had this brush for 5 years. I tried more expensive brushes, tried using smaller sizes. Nothing works for me like you do, little brush. You're simply the best. Demonetized. I'm gonna paint the inner lip here. So a little Battletech lore. If you're not familiar with it, Battletech takes place in the 31st millennium. 31st century, I think. No, 31st millennium? No. 31st millennium, that's Warhammer. 41st millennium. 31st century, that's Battletech. In the 31st century, you have 5 main factions vying for control and influence and power over the galaxy. These 5 factions are sort of the successor states to a Roman-esque style, I want to say dictatorship, could be wrong on that point, called the Star League. And they had the greatest military in the galaxy. Of course, they had the only military in the galaxy because in Battletech, to my knowledge, there are no aliens. This is Animal Crossing. So the head guy in charge of the Star League, he died. And there was foul play. Everybody got mad and they wanted a piece of the pie. So it started war between these houses, these great houses of humanity. The leader of the Star League Defense Force, his name was Karinsky. I think he was discouraged by what he saw, and so he just peaced out. He left the known galaxy and went to sort of the wild west of the galaxy, and he hadn't been seen in hundreds and hundreds of years. So it left these 5 successor houses, the great houses, let's see, House Steiner, House Davian, House Karita, House Liao, and House Merrick. Left them fighting it out. And these became known as the Succession Wars. And the technology that these states have is not new. Because in the war, the first Succession War, they lost track of how to make all this technology. And so they're at the point now where they're just constantly recycling old technology, scrapping it and repurposing it. So if someone, everybody, the big thing that everybody wants on their side are battle mechs. And the battle mechs, they have a hard time figuring out how to produce them. They use ancient Star League era factories, and they're not entirely sure how they work. They just know that they work. And so they use them to produce battle mechs. Eventually, the children of Karinsky come back, and this is known as the clan invasion. And these guys come back and they want to consolidate power and take over the old Star League again. That's kind of like an apocalypse end times kind of moment for Battletech because the clans have superior technology. Vastly superior technology. And they have been updating things while they've been gone. Not just relying on outdated tech from Star League days. The Timberwolf, the mech I'm currently painting, is one of those mechs that came back during the clan invasion. Clan Wolf, in particular, was very fond of the Timberwolf. Makes sense. In terms of the government, they have sort of like a quasi-feudal system with lords and things like that. In a lot of ways, it's very similar to Warhammer. All of those sci-fi universes, they all pulled inspiration from each other. They're all the same. Now the question I have for myself is, do I want to do like a fine pin wash and just the lines, or do I want to wash the whole thing? And I'm a little frightened, but I think I'm just going to try to wash the whole thing and see where we end up. Because I like efficiency, and that's really efficient. But I'm also hesitant because if I do that, then there's a possibility that I'll just have to paint over what I've just painted, and that's horribly inefficient. What to do? To think about that for a little bit. pretty happy with how this turned out. Didn't make a ton of progress for an hour. I am a bit of a slow painter. And I also like to chat. So I didn't get as much done in this hour as I would have hoped that I would, but I had a good time, and I hope you did too. So I plan on doing one of these every week, and we'll be working on whatever projects I have on my desk. Right now it's Battletech. Once I finish this Lance, though, it'll probably be Warhammer again. I've also thought about getting into some other tabletop miniatures and getting terrain and stuff like that. Thought about getting a Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, or it's called Middle Earth strategy battle game now. So I've thought about doing that, but we'll see. So anyway, thanks for joining me. If you haven't already, it'd be really awesome if you subscribed and hit the bell for notifications. It really helps me out and helps you know when I'm doing stuff again. So hope you're all having a great Christmas, and I will see you either in the next video or in the next stream. Take care. See ya. Bye. Hasta luego.